Don't give it to me, my precious. I don't want this.
Right? God, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Podcast of the Rings. Slowly rebanding.
And you thought Wandering Realms was gonna be.
we blending, okay?
Okay, guys, welcome to our channel.
What's so fucking quacked over here? By the way, did you see in Fortnite you can become Godzilla right now?
No.
Yeah,
is it like a mythic or something?
Yeah, like one person can become a 300-foot tall plasma breathing monster.
That's actually so cool.
It's amazing. I've seen clips. It looks amazing.
One of the best mashups I've seen is Mudang, like throwing the plasma, like Mudang is so great. Hippo. My brother got the one who actually created the theme music for our show here. Grammy-winning artist Vinny Verdi has a built Godzilla with a plasma shooting, and he could turn it on, and it lights up, and
that's so cool.
Like a personally made one. It's very cool. He's all into Godzilla.
Yeah, there's if anyone has seen the 28 years later trailer, there's like this sound, and it's not from World War I, but it's like a war poem that they've recorded into this like
gramophone
stanza. Yeah, it sounds like it's like an old recording.
Got it.
And it just gets like more intense, and people have on TikTok, people have made these amazing edits, and there's a Godzilla one with it. I will send it to you.
Oh yeah, it sounds great.
It is so good.
On our X. Post it on our
I need to relog in. I don't have X on my phone anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I literally am currently only using it for our podcast.
I have it on my computer still, like to check in, because like there's just like news events that aren't on Blue Sky.
Right.
Like I don't know what to follow on Blue Sky yet. I'm still looking around, and there's no like trending page really that kind of works. So I'm still like checking it every once in a while, but it's still just it's so crazy that we are just at the mercy of a billionaire who just wants to be cool and just isn't.
But now Zuck is doing the same heel turn. He was always evil. But like, I don't know if you've seen the news about like they're disbanding the DEI group, and then like allowing literal people to say that trans mental health is like a mental illness. Like there's just like and so people want to leave Meta products too, and I get it. But
it's what a weird time to do it too, because like you have such a layup. You've paid for all the legislation to go through to ban TikTok. By the way, yeah, that was all paid for by Meta. All those hearings, and all the congressmen have bought stock in Meta. By the way, super great government we live in.
Yeah, we're doing really good here.
We're doing, can't legislative like.
You know what? The best part is we're not going to get hung for saying these things. That's a good country. Yeah. Well, I know.
Yeah. Like they could retroactively come back at us. But common sense, gun control, universal health care, those things like. It's time. Guys, it's really hard to pass these things. Forgiving student loan, even though I promised during my campaign to do that, it's just so tough. But banning a social media app, boom, judicial, boom, executive, boom. Like Congress, like just through all three, just amazing.
We can't get gun control, but we can get rid of TikTok.
Yep.
Anyway,
and people will download an actual Chinese propaganda app, which is Red Note, which is hilarious.
It's so fun. It's actually so funny. I just learned about that in a meeting, and I was like, "Great, good for you. Go do it." Anyway, we are Ben and Jess, and this is Podcast of the Rings, where we specifically talk about Podcast of the Rings. But Ben and I are weeb-wanding to like just. I was going to say blow out all the things we can talk about. Basically, like, use an umbrella so that because, like, there is only so much Lord of the Rings that we can talk about competently. But there's also so many other things that interest us. Dune is a huge inspiration of mine. There's a lot to talk about with Dune. There's a new television show. I just hung the Master Sword up on my wall if you're watching us on YouTube, so we could talk about Zelda, we could talk about Arcane, we could talk about, so we were going to start doing more, we're going to start doing more other fantasy realm type stuff. It will be a cold day in hell if you get me to talk about The Witcher, but you just might, because I don't give one rat's ass about that TV show. And I said that about Game of Thrones, so we'll see.
I watched the first 2 episodes of The Witcher. It was fine. And, like, I understand why that song, really caught on.
What song?
Toss a coin to your Witcher.
Is that like was the theme song?
Like, I think, a little lute player comes up with it when he's walking around with Henry Cavill. And it became like a hit song. Yeah.
Kind of like the song that Jennifer Lawrence haphazardly sings in Hunger Games.
Yes. Absolutely. Or like, the cup song in
that was her.
Pitch
that was
Perfect.
all her. I give it to her. That's how she auditioned for the actual movie, by the way.
Really?
So, yes. So
pretty cool.
She set
I don't
herself
know why
apart
they
that
changed. This is what bugs me about that stuff is that the version in the movie is what people like. Don't give me like, I remember watching the music video and it's her like a bakery or something, but it's like a full studio version. I'm like, no, I like the stripped down version. That's what made the song popular. I don't want to hear the studio sounds. Like, no, what are you doing? It's such a weird choice.
I got that. If you can hear the bells tolling in my apartment right now, that's the radiator coming on. Just so
that's the 4 Horsemen coming.
It's over.
Just in time, baby.
Seriously.
Not a moment too soon.
We're recording this well before the 20th of January, so we'll see. Also, I saw today on the news, one more tangent. This is the 31st anniversary of the Northridge earthquake, which I had the pleasure of surviving when I was a little baby.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember it vividly because the day before it was unseasonably warm for January, even though LA tends to be warm. I was living in the valley at the time. I was about 3 miles or 4 miles from the epicenter in Northridge. I was in Chatsworth, and we were working on my dad's van in the backyard, having a grand old time. And the next day was Martin Luther King Day, so we had the day off, and we were like having a blast. And then the next thing I remember after going to sleep that night was being pushed outside to a blanket of stars, and all the neighborhood congregated on our front lawn because we were like the Verdes that could handle biz, and my dad did handle biz, and got a bunch of probably looted from the grocery store, but respectfully looted. Probably was like the first person to think I got to go to the grocery store now and get food. And also we were friends with the Italian deli down the street too, so all that was going to go bad. So my dad grabbed a lot of stuff from there. We were big providers during that. Anyway, slept through the earthquake and haven't slept through one since because it was a fucking nightmare for me.
I bet.
Yeah. The fires right now are just so surreal for me to not be in LA and watch it all happening from afar. But like the road I took to work every day is gone, and like it's wild. But thank God my family, most of our friends are doing okay. But I know not completely out of the woods yet. Anyway.
No, it's very weird to like carry on as normal. Like it's not quite COVID, but it's like close to where like it's not happening.
Surreal.
Yeah, it's like,
which is a weird thing to say because it's real, it's happening, but it is surreal in a weird. Does that make sense?
No, it's because like I don't want to like say where I am, but where I am, like I can look outside and it's blue skies and it's clear and I'm going to work every day, but 3 miles away is literal hell, and whole neighborhoods are gone, and people have lost their like not just their homes, but then like their job burns down as well. So it's like it's a very weird thing.
The losing pet, like, and then you see like when you see people drive by like Playa Vista or on certain roads, and like one house is standing but everything else is gone. That's got to feel so surreal too.
Yeah.
Just entire like livelihoods are gone in 1 second, and it really isn't just the richest of the rich, especially if you're looking like in Altadena where the Eaton fire's happening. But not every single person in that area was just beyond rich. So. It's just a wild thing. You're totally right. If it's not their work, if it's not their home, it's one or the other, or it's both. So,
yep.
I do think that area is getting a lot of attention though because it's LA. Like
It's the headlines like, oh, Bradley Cooper's home along with
Right.
25 others have burned down. It's like people are so ignorant about it. Like, you're not gonna click on that headline more than you would of Altadena, a place you've never heard of, even though it's in the greater Los Angeles area. Like, it sucks, but it was always the same of like, Paul Walker died in a car crash, even though he wasn't. I don't think he was driving, or maybe he had someone in the passenger seat. And they're like, well, what about the other guy? It's like, no one's disgracing the other people, but like, that's their job, is to create a headline that you click on.
The
Like,
helicopter.
yeah, with Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone was so mad that there were 3 other families that no one talked about. And the thing is, it's like, I don't know a single person that didn't in the same breath go, what a tragedy overall. Like, it was a tragedy for everyone that was involved.
And every
in
article did mention the other families. It's just a headline. Like, I don't know. You're getting upset about the wrong things.
I don't know. I guess it's just perspective, probably. I'm so uninterested in 2025 fighting a losing battle. I really want to foster my ability to, like, be the change I want to be. And if someone wants to argue and, like, say women aren't funny, I'm going to say, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want to fight that fight right now.
I'm also going to say they're right.
See, you made my joke better, bro.
Yes, and?
Fuck you. Anyway, I'll put a marker. This is where we're starting the episode. Today's episode is about the hunt for Gollum, because we did do a quick, just like a bonus about this on our Patreon, just for our Patreon users. But I felt like it was incumbent upon us to talk about how dumb this movie is and why we don't want it. And just the overall fatigue I think our audiences are having over, like, IP expansion and universe expansion. Literally last night, Alex and I were sitting on the couch, and he's like, what's Skeleton Crew? And I was like, bro, you don't know about a Star Wars show? And I was like, well, you've heard about the Acolyte. He's like, no, what's that? I was like, it's come and gone and been canceled. And you didn't even hear about it. No one gives a flying fuck. And it's not because Acolyte's woke. It's not because I mean, it might be. Who knows? But is anyone watching Skeleton Crew?
I've heard decent things about Skeleton Crew, but Disney has taken, especially Disney for sure, because they own so many things and they're serializing everything, where it's like, even when they first bought Star Wars, and like Force Awakens came back, I remember I was at work and we turned on, like, I wasn't working at a sports bar, it was just a bar that had a TV, and we turned down the music to watch. It was like during, a halftime of a football game or something, where the Force Awakens trailer came on, and we turned it up, and I remember I felt emotional. I was like, oh my God, Star Wars is back.
Right.
Like, we are here. And just every other Christmas was a Star Wars movie. And then, they did Force Awakens, and then they did Rogue One, and then they did Last Jedi. And Last Jedi cannot be understated, the cultural impact that movie had, for good or for bad.
It's definitely a watershed moment for sure. You're totally right.
It is.
Yeah.
But just like, point. Even that, it was like, by that third Christmas, whether you like The Last Jedi or not, we don't need to get into that. But it was like, it's a lot of Star Wars movies. And then 6 months later was Solo. And I'll never understand why Disney did this, where it's like, you own Christmas. Christmas, like, it was becoming like a Lord of the Rings thing, where it's like, every Christmas we'll go see a Star Wars movie, for good or for bad. And then it was like, 2 weeks after Infinity War, it was that same year. So, like, Marvel was dominant. It was like Black Panther, Infinity War, and then 2 weeks later, we're going to put Solo out. It's like, why? Like, let your movies, this is the same company, let your movies make all the money, and then put this on Christmas, and then it was over. And then ever since then, they've done Rise of Skywalker, and there hasn't been a Star Wars movie since.
Well, they stopped producing all these Star Wars movies because they realized how badly they were doing. I think they released Solo after those major hits because they knew it wasn't good. Like,
but that's the thing, is that they tank themselves because they're like, oh, Alden Ehrenreich needed an acting coach. We're going to fire Lord and Miller. It's like, okay, then give your movie 6 extra months to look better. Like, I don't know if they're like, they own the rights. This isn't a right of the Rohirrim situation where they needed to release it in June. That is one of the most confusing things where it felt, I think Disney was like just too high on their own supply. We're like, oh, even Last Jedi that all the media bros hated made almost $2 billion. So we're just going to release this anyway and make this a summer blockbuster.
Wow. I didn't realize it made that much money.
It made a lot of money.
Of course it did. Interestingly enough, I think the number I just read was it's $6 billion on Lord of the Rings right now. I mean, that seems low, honestly, if you're telling me Star Wars made $2 billion. But I we'll get into that in a second. But what I want to say too, I think the reason like Solo wasn't good and why people got fatigued is because also like who's going to be Harrison Ford today? Like,
I thought Alden Ehrenreich was great, but you're totally
really?
right. I did. The more I watch Solo, the more I do like it. It's nothing special, but that's the thing is that it's such a Star Wars is its own thing where people do just want the member berries. It's very hard to make new Star Wars stuff because even in The Mandalorian, which I thought was a great show, and I was like, oh, this is a good little like serial, Elseworld kind of like, we're not dealing with the Skywalkers. By the end of season 2, Luke Skywalker comes in. I'm like, it's not like, I was one of the few people that wasn't a fan of that. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, I liked this small story that didn't have giant galactic implications. It was just a guy trying to make his way in the galaxy, which is a cool thing.
Your way in the galaxy takes everything you got. But yeah, with Grogu by your side. That was the biggest mistake, honestly, was naming that fucking thing Grogu. I was so upset about
but
that.
But they even knew their biggest mistake because, like, at the end of season 2, he goes off with Luke Skywalker to train as a Jedi, and they're like, oh, we need to sell toys. So literally by the time season 3 comes around, they don't even mention it either. In the Book of Boba Fett, a different TV show, he comes back to join the Mandalorian again, and they don't even mention it in season 3 of Mandalorian. So if you didn't watch that other show, you'd be like, wait, why is Baby Yoda back? What the hell?
That's fucked up. That's really fucked up. So I think to tie this into what we're talking about with the Hunt of Gollum, which we still know, honestly, very little. We've heard Aragorn, Viggo, and
everybody's
McKellen.
coming back.
Are they for sure? Because I think they said they're interested in coming back.
They want.
I've not seen anything official saying they are coming back. Now, you'd be really hard pressed to make an in-world New Line Cinema Lord of the Rings that happens in between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, basically.
Yep.
And not bring Viggo and Ian McKellen and Kate Blanchett and Hugo Weaving, Christopher Lee. I don't know what you're going to, I guess you don't really need him.
If there's a CGI Christopher Lee, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
Riot. Fucking riot. That's what actually this whole episode's about is no CGI Christopher Lee. Thank you.
Yes.
So I guess I think there was also like people bandying about ideas of like a origin story for Aragorn, an origin story for Gandalf. I don't want these things.
I don't need Aragorn a Star Wars story.
That's really don't, man.
But and that's the thing is that what I talked about for Right of the Rohirrim. This is, and I know it's a business. There are rights. There are obligations. Like what was it? My favorite thing I've ever heard is Warren Beatty owns the rights to Dick Tracy. And he has to do something with Dick Tracy every 5 years or so. So I think he did like a Skype call with himself as Dick Tracy. And that counted. So he could just keep the rights to Dick Tracy. And he was like, I'm Dick Tracy. What are you doing over there? Oh, nothing, Warren Beatty. I don't know how. Like, go look it up. It's the most, it's the craziest thing ever. It
sounds unhinged. And I don't want it.
It absolutely is unhinged. But so I understand that. But again, just how I said, Ride of the Rohirrim, I enjoyed it for what it was. It's not going to be anything I revisit every Christmas like Lord of the Rings, but it was fine. But this is a perfect anime short story. This would be a perfect HBO Max like weekly thing of like, hey, here's an hour-long episode. And you can animate it so you can bring back Viggo Mortensen, and he looks like 2001 Viggo Mortensen, not 2025 Viggo.
Right.
Everybody ages. I'm not insulting, but I don't want to see Robert De Niro, 75 years old, trying to stomp somebody out on the curb in The Irishman. I don't want to see that in Viggo when he's trying to like bend over for some athletes and be like, oh, my fucking knees, man. Holy shit. Like, I'm 37 and I'm doing that at work every day as a bartender.
Tired.
I can't imagine what. Yeah, Viggo's 60 something now.
Isn't Viggo the age Ian McKellen was when he started playing Gandalf?
Yes.
Listen, I think you're right. Even his capability aside, which I'm sure this man's in great condition or can get into great condition. McKellen's doing live theater, and the only reason he couldn't finish out the most recent show he did is because he fell off the fucking stage. You know, like these guys can do it, but it is a visual thing that you're asking us to like really do a lot of legwork to deal with.
Yeah, like, I mean, I didn't mind it so much in The Hobbit, but like how much Orlando Bloom had changed in 10 years.
It actually was like a little difficult for me to handle. It really, because elves aren't supposed to change.
Out of all the people that aren't supposed to age, like it's...
And here's the thing. Legolas don't need to fucking be there.
Nope.
He didn't need to be there. And again, I'm not complaining. He's great. He has some shit.
The most insane. They're like, you know what? We've got you here. Let me do the most insane shit you've ever seen on screen.
It's fantastic. It's funny. And the joke where he's like, oh, you're ugly son. You know what I mean? It's great. But they didn't need him. And half the time you're going, oh man, you're just a man now.
Yeah, he just filled out. Like nothing's wrong with what Orlando Bloom looks like. He just got buff. He's no longer a little like waifu over there. Like he's no longer like that Orlando Bloom cannot walk on top of snow. He just can't.
Yeah, his bones aren't hollow enough.
No, it's not.
100%. And the other question that like comes to mind is like, I'm sure. First of all, you could do this movie, and it could be good. And Andy Serkis is wonderful. He's made time immemorial, whatever. He's made a Gollum for the ages.
Yes,
people will talk about this.
He's gonna get like a lifetime Oscar for his like motion capture work.
Absolutely. In 200 years, people will be talking about it. I don't care. It's going to be ubiquitous, and so cool. Continue. Maybe he feels a kinship with this bro. One movie, man. Do one movie. Don't do two. Don't flip this into two or three.
That's the crazy thing is like what? I don't know because there's been rumors of like
it's been rumored to be two.
Okay, here's a quote from one of the writers, Peter DeLuca, I believe his name is. Hold on.
Yeah,
Mike
Philippa
DeLuca.
Boyan is.
Yeah. For over 2 decades, moviegoers have embraced the Lord of the Rings film trilogy because of the undeniable devotion Peter, Fran, and Philippa have shown towards protecting the legacy of Tolkien's work. We are honored they have agreed to be our partners on these 2 new films, with Andy coming aboard to direct Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum. We continue an important commitment to excellence that is a true hallmark of how we all want to venture ahead and further contribute to Lord of the Rings cinematic history. Now, I don't know if that means it's a 2-part Hunt for Gollum movie, or if it's just like two new movies. Lord of the Rings in-universe movies. But, like, you are talking to one of the few people, and you can go back in our archives of this podcast, of me being a staunch defender of the Hobbit trilogy.
Yes. I'm grateful that the first time I watched it was for our show with you, because I probably have more appreciation for it had I not. I wouldn't have gone into it going, let me see if this is bad. But I think it says something that I didn't care to watch it up to this point. Right?
No, I totally understand. And I appreciate that compliment. Trust me, I know, like, even me, I'm like, Battle of the Five Armies does not need to do half of what it does.
No, right.
And there's, with the numbers on screen, they lose. Like, they just lose. There's like 25 villagers with pitchforks going up against 10,000 like goblin orcs and trolls. And they're like, the power of friendship will prevail.
Tangent. Have you seen the guy who sets up like battles between like 1,000,000 Urukai and
Yes.
10,000 Harry Potters.
I don't know how his computer doesn't just like get on fire, like doesn't like explode. Because I remember I played the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, and it was like PS5 had come out, and it's time, and I was still playing on my PlayStation 4. It sounded like a fucking jet taking off every time I booted up. It was like. It was pretty great.
Yeah, I love when you're like, I'm even pushing my MacBook to like the brink, and I'm like, hello, are you okay?
Yeah,
are you there? And you shouldn't be able to. Like, I'm not playing, engine performance games like those, but you're doing something wrong when your Mac's freezing.
Absolutely. But yeah, so I don't know what they could even do, because I've read the Council of Elrond chapter. They talk about the hunt for Gollum.
It's very in depth, that chapter.
Yes, it is more than just if you feel like catching up on the hunt for Gollum and seeing what they're doing, just go read that chapter or listen to it on an audiobook, because there is much more than just the ring. The ring, it felt like Boromir didn't even come for the ring. He was just like, oh, I think I should talk to somebody about the dream. Like, he was looking for a therapist more than like a strategic battle meeting.
He was like on a vision quest. He didn't.
So much so that he lost his horse halfway through and trekked it on foot to Rivendell from Gondor.
Whoa.
Boromir gets it like that, dude.
He also got a lot of arrows, you know what I mean?
He did get it like that. So I don't know. It just seems like a strange thing to pick out of everything. And again, it's got to be a rights issue of what they have the rights to, and like what can we make a story of, and what counts as a movie, or what can we theatrically release, because this is such a weird turn. And I realize they want to grab it all like the member berries, but it's like at a certain point, my suspension of disbelief only goes so far, even in a fantasy world.
What do you think are the main... Let's just live in a world where they're going to... This is going to be a good movie. What are the main challenges they have in order to make this a good movie?
There has to be a story.
Yeah.
Like, they have to... The trailer guy has to be working overtime over here, because it is a burden of excellence that those first three films have had, because even the Hobbit movies, which I think are a solid B minus.
Sure.
And like Five
but
Armies
still in
like,
Lord of the Rings.
Is still in Lord of the Rings are incomparable to them. And I give a lot of grace, because there is a lot of like, oh, Guillermo del Toro was like he was literally like in the starting position, and the starting gun was in the air, and he was like, cramp, I'm out. And then a lot of other people left as well. And so Peter Jackson stepped in the last time and was like, okay, everything's got to be green screen and CGI, because we are literally writing Battle of the Five Armies as we are filming it. So we'll do it in post. Like, we'll do it live. And so I give a lot of grace to those films, but there's not that grace now. You have called your shot. We are going to do this movie.
Chosen to do this.
You have chosen to do this.
Yeah.
You have picked the director, Andy Serkis. You have picked, like, if the stars come back, if the original stars come back, that's great. But what is the story you are going to tell? How are you going to tell? Like, is it going to be a Predator type story, like a cat and mouse game? Is it going to be it can't, we've seen Gollum story, so it can't be like I don't know, I can't even think of just like a fugitive kind of thing where like, oh, they come to an understanding at the end and like he lets Gollum go for other reasons or something. Like, I don't know.
I don't need to know
who
Gollum was in love with when he was Smeagol and leaves behind, and watch the whole town turn on him. I don't need to watch that.
And especially because we got the Gollum game that just came out, and it's like the worst POS you've ever seen. Like, so much so that people were spending the $40 on it just to make bad content for it. Like,
that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah, it became like, it's not as pop. It doesn't have like the shelf life as like, The Room or something. But it became that where people would be like, oh, let's go play the Gollum game. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. But after a while, it just became boring.
Bad.
It was so terrible because you're playing it and you can't play a game more than you could just watch a bad movie.
I will say, just to that point, I like the Mines of Moria. I'm like, I don't like to sit in front of my computer often if I'm going to play a game. So I don't often play this game. I really want a Steam Deck just for this game.
Yeah.
I like it, man. It's a good game.
My friend Lucy James works for IGN, and she reviewed the Shire game coming out, and it's like
I can't wait.
Yeah, she said it was it's like she gave it like a B plus. There's like some stuff that I think they can improve on. I'll put the link on our thing. But I was very excited because I'm not a big sandbox type of game where you just kind of live. But I'm like, you know what? If you get the right skin on a game, I will enjoy it. Like,
that makes sense. I will say Terraria looks incredible. I don't know if you've seen it, where like you can just like people they have the more technical words for it, but you're like, I want a turret here, and it like changes everything in real time, so you don't like have to like actively. There's no, there's no UI. There's like, you're not trying to fight anybody. You don't have to get materials. You can just like build. So people are building like the Mines of Moria or like.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's it's like really yeah, because you want something to like be satisfying, and like all the clicks and the bricks and everything building sounds really satisfying, and you want it to look pretty. That's why I didn't play Minecraft for a very long time. I watched my brother, put dirt, lava, and water 10, 15 years ago or whenever it started. And I was like, what is this trash? But then when you're in it, you're like, this makes so much sense. You know, I love those cozy games for sure. But there does have to be the right mixture. If you're setting it in the Shire, that's a big boon to that kind of game.
Exactly.
So you said that there's got to be a story. I can see the story being a downfall, honestly. If you're going to give me too much Gollum backstory, I don't give a fuck. And maybe some where do you find him? Aragorn trying to track him. We don't get a lot of Aragorn's tracking skills like in the minutia of the movies, so that could be fun. God, and it's such an Aragorn film that you can't really do it without him.
No, you can't. And that's the thing, is that Fourth Age Vigo is right there. Like, and I don't know what they would have the rights to, but if they have the rights to Aragorn, you can make a new story and be like, oh, this is King Aragorn doing something. Wow. Fighting the Easterlings, bringing the peace of all mankind together. Carl Urban is also right there. The Boys is about to end. The man is gonna need a paycheck. Like, they're on the final season of The Boys. Like, bring back Carl Urban. Éomer and Vigo team up 20 years later. Fucking print money, dude.
Give us that buddy story. You had the great idea of Gimli and Legolas going to check out the Crystal Caves and go into Fangorn and do the buddy fucking rom-com there.
And honestly, if you released a 2.5-hour movie with a bunch of short stories, people would also show up for it.
I think that's it. We scoffed at this news a while back where Disney said that they're going to bring an elite team of fans to comment.
Oh, God, I'd forgotten about that.
Right?
I forgot about that.
That got swept under the rug, and I'm sure they're still doing it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But it's like the execs don't care, really. Like, they're going to do this. It's either they're not, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think you and I have a pretty good taste. I think you and I have pretty good opinions. And we're skilled in our careers and our fields that aren't just limited to talking about TV, like an actual producer of things, I could sit in that room as a fan and as a creator and advise, and I don't know how these things get passed.
That's the crazy part. It's just like, okay, here's what we have. And that's the thing. I'm even in the most business sense. Here's what we have the rights to. We've got Gandalf. We've got Aragorn. We could have Gollum in there. I'm just like, okay, not the hunt for Gollum. No. My precious. Let's go in a different direction. And it's just, I don't know how this isn't like a 10-minute meeting of just like, okay, Hunt for Gollum's out. Instead of, like, they must be like painted into a corner with what they can do with this material, because
it might be, but I actually think, because I'm sorry I cut you off. I always do that. Go ahead. Because
no, you're fine.
Well, I really think they're just scared. I loved the YouTube video where the guy was talking about like the Marvel movies being symptomatic of this, being really scared to make an interesting, different, and exciting score. And so basically the only score is ba ba ba, like the Avengers theme. But you don't have a theme for Black Panther, really. You don't have a theme for Iron Man, really.
Whoa.
Is there a musical theme for Black Panther? Can you sing it off the top of your head right now?
I can't because I'm not musically inclined.
Can you do Superman right now?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
That is John Williams.
I understand, but they're not taking swings. It's also not, John Williams is not the only progenitor.
Also, didn't Black Panther win an Oscar for the score?
Possibly. Maybe Black Panther was a bad pull.
Yeah, okay. I will give you MCU, but like Black Panther was like a historically bad pull because like Kendrick Lamar produced the soundtrack and like what's his name? I can't think of his name.
But is there a theme? I don't know if there's a theme song for Black Panther that I could.
There is. I just can't do it.
Because you're white, or
yes.
Okay, basically, like, this guy was talking about, like, okay, the Captain America theme exists, but it's only lightly played when he sees a picture of himself at the museum. It's not played, like, gallantly while he's doing major things. And the person's hypothesis was that they're afraid to make a bad choice and turn off audiences. They instead wanted to make it milquetoast or vanilla and easily acceptable so that they were universally accepted as much as possible. When in reality, you have a Superman that everyone loves, and you're like, even when James Gunn, he's got the theme, and that's huge. Like, he's got the Superman theme in the new trailer.
Yeah,
that's big. That's big potatoes. I feel like they are afraid to make a bold choice here, and they're going with what they know, and they're going with what they think people will least likely reject, which is a fucking shame, because I think Hollywood's like this in general. I can't imagine Peter Jackson isn't given carte blanche. I can't imagine that.
Right? And like they keep attaching his name as the producer,
but he's not doing the same amount of things.
But he's not doing the same stuff. But yeah, but that's the thing, is that I understand the theory of like, oh, it's just like we got to do the safe thing. You know, like that's Disney is like backpedaling so hard because they did take a lot of chances. Like, you know, Black Panther's the perfect example where they let Ryan Coogler cook for like 2/3 of the movie. And then at the end, they're like, we need a big battle and we need CGI rhinos. And it kind of falls apart. I think the end of the movie is great, but it doesn't live up to the first half and 2/3 of the movie where like, oh my gosh, I am in Wakanda right now. This is something so new. Like the score, the soundtrack in the back, the characters, like, holy crap. And that's so many Marvel movies you can point to where it's like, oh, this is like even the James Gunn movies where they're like, okay, Guardians is very different, but we do need a lot of explosions at the end. So make some explosions. And it's like, no, God, we are 10 years into this. Like, trust your audience at to the tiniest bit. But it's just like, this isn't a safe choice. I don't see the safety in this. Like, I'd rather, honestly, and this is a blasphemous take, I'd rather do what HBO is doing and make the fucking Harry Potter series into a TV show. No one's gonna like that, but that is honestly, to me, a safer choice to just remake Lord of the Rings into 3 seasons of television, of Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King, than this. More people will watch that, and they would hate watch that and make all the videos of how bad it is more than how big of a flop this movie is going to be. And I want to be proven wrong more than anything. I hope Hunt for Gollum fucking wins every Oscar. I hope it gets everything. I hope no one is more surprised than me of this movie because I never want to go see a bad movie. But
yeah,
I don't see it happening simply and that's the thing. The starting point is a bad point. I know that, and it's not even that I know this story because a lot of people don't know this story. That's totally fine.
Yeah,
but
it's not like the thing you retain the most from the actual Lord of the Rings
I just don't know how they build this into a movie, let alone possibly two, because that seems insane.
Yeah, I think we've said about everything we can say. I think you speak for both of us that we don't want this to be a bad movie. I don't want them to flop. I don't want them to whiff on this. I think Andy Serkis is great. No one's saying those things. I think, honestly, this is why I give a lot of credit to Rings of Power. They didn't do the same fucking thing.
Nope.
And a lot of the people that hate watch that show in the same breath are on Reddit and on their fucking Twitter going, nothing's new in Hollywood and everything's the...
But also those people don't go see new original things in Hollywood. So shut the entire fuck up.
That's what my point is, that they're just contrarian.
Yeah. And
so this conversation just gives me further, respect for, in the face of a world, granted, they got a lot of money in order to do this. Yes. they have carte blanche in a weird way. But in a world that it's like big swings are really not encouraged, they just said, fuck it, we're going to do this thing. Because they were also given the runway to do it. They were given the 7, 8, 9, 10 years to do 5 seasons to do this. I think a lot of people think that the story is going to change because people are influencing it and it's too woke. I think a lot of that story is already written. The only thing they're going to have to fumble and deal with in the moment are actors leaving or dying. And I think that's what's going to change, with Bronwyn leaving. I like the Rings of Power, and it's different, and that works for me. I don't need to see Gollum ever again unless I'm doing my yearly rewatch. That's my feeling.
No, I think I've said this before about Rings of Power is my favorite band is Dance Gavin Dance, and they changed the lead singer 4 times since in 15 years. And it's you kind of have to look at it as a different band. They've got the same name, but you kind of have to look at it oh, this is a new band that I'm listening to. And if you like that, I don't like some of their albums and I like some of their other albums. And so you kind of have to look at it like that. And that's how I view Rings of Power. It's I don't need to forcefully put it into the same universe. They're different writers, they're different actors, different producers, different directors. There's so much that goes into a visual piece of art that the slightest thing can change it. You look at The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, that Peter Jackson just didn't have the time to handcraft every piece of armor or build every set, and it looks wildly different. Insanely different, that he didn't have 5 years of prep and 2 years of fuck off, don't bother me, we are filming everything. And that's what they did. That is carte blanche, if ever there was.
Yeah, that's right.
Where they were
and they still had problems with the studio.
And they still had problems. Famously nice guy Harvey Weinstein somehow interfered. It was so crazy. Who would have guessed that that guy was a problem? Oh man, definitely not Oprah. Definitely not Matt Damon. But there's so much that goes into a movie, and the thing is that the people at the top that greenlit this movie, that said let's do this, they're not going to be the ones that get punished if and when it flops. They're going to receive a bonus check at the end of the year for, David Zaslav just might erase this movie after it's in post-production and be you know what? The $90 million write-off is better than, whatever we make at the box office. So that's always a possibility.
I don't think so, because I think they're going to make $1 billion on this fucking movie regardless.
You think so?
I think so, because they're just looking at Peter Jackson, Andy Serkis, Gollum, Lord of the Rings. I think I think they've run the metrics. I think they've done the projections. I think they're going to... They want us to hate watch it, and it will play on HBO all day long.
I think those days are gone, though.
No.
The MCU is no longer infallible. Star Wars is no longer infallible. Indiana Jones made no money. I'm trying... they can't bring Star Trek back right now because it doesn't make any money. I'm trying to think of any other big big franchise.
Star Trek is the saddest one because like they just ended Lower Decks, which I think is the best new Trek they have.
Oh, it's like done?
There's no order for a new season. They treated this like a season finale, series finale. I think everyone's like, we'd like to do this some more, but they wrapped up like the lower decks of it all because they're all kind of getting promoted.
Gotcha.
Sorry, spoilers. It's been out for a couple weeks.
But yeah, it's just like there's no. Everyone's looking for like the safe bet, but there really is no. I mean, God, Deadpool and Wolverine is probably the safest bet because there's just like nothing innovative or original in that movie, and people were cheering when Elektra came on screen. I'm like, y'all, I like Jennifer Garner too. Elektra's the biggest piece of shit movie ever, and you all hated it, and it flopped. So let's not cheer for it now.
I think that's the whole reason people like. That's why she was there because it didn't go well. I thought it was strange that Baby Girl Wolverine was lopped into this forgotten superhero thing. I thought that was weird.
I don't know. I think it's for fan service.
Yeah, but it was
I'm
just
always
like
happy
weird...
she got a paycheck, but
no, I was happy she was there, but it was weird that for the reasoning she was there, like this forgotten superhero.
It made no sense. The movie, if you think about it for 10 seconds, makes no sense.
Yeah, you're totally right. It doesn't matter. It was just fun.
Considering when Deadpool goes to the TVA, Logan hasn't happened yet. Logan is in the future.
You have to buy that they've gotten that far in the future. You have to imagine.
In the future, it's post-apocalyptic, and there's no mutants left.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But I do love the car fight when Hugh's really mad at him. It was a really great scene. It was awesome.
Yeah, I liked it on Twitter when I saw it a day after the fucking movie came out. God, dude.
Speaking of the first... Skywalker movie, the new Rey movies, I was doing At Midnight at the time, and I didn't think about this because I was just like living on that midnight thing, and on those hashtags was Kylo Ren is Han Solo's son and he kills him, and the picture of like within 10 minutes. Anyway, it was pretty great.
Top 5 spoiler moment for me is I was off social media. I was watching a Twitch stream because my dad's office had like rented out a theater for like friends and family. So I was like, I'm going to go home and I'll see it then. And it was like Saturday. So it wasn't like I just wasn't going to like the midnight screening. I was watching a Twitch stream and someone, not even the donation name was Kylo Ren kills Han Solo. And I was like, I didn't even know because I don't think they say Kylo Ren's name in the trailer.
Twitch then?
Yeah, Twitch was 2015. Twitch has been around for a while.
I know. Wow, crazy.
And so I was just like, I don't even know who Kylo Ren is, but then like he's like the first person on screen. Basically, they're like, "That's Kylo Ren." I was like, "Son of a fucking bitch!"
God damn it!
I was so mad, dude. I couldn't believe it.
Snape kills Dumbledore. All right, thank you so much for joining us on this journey about talking shit about the hunt for Gollum. Next week's got a really fun episode where we're going to pit your choices of different Lord of the Rings Middle Earth characters against each other, and we're gonna basically debate who would win in a fight. So do you want to put Gollum up against all 4 hobbits? Do you want to put Gandalf up against Galadriel? Do you want to put Frodo up against Aragorn? You guys got to nominate these battles. Leave them in the comments. You can email us at podcastoftherings@gmail.com, or you can go to our Patreon, which will be a public post where you can also put your suggestions and nominations there at patreon.com/podcastoftherings. I think it's going to be a really fun one.
I think it's going to be a really good one as well.
Yeah, that'll be like one of the last Lord of the Rings centric things we do. Fair warning, this channel is going to change to our overall branding, which will encompass other content. If we lose you, I'm so sorry. It's been wonderful. But we still will do Lord of the Rings content. It just won't be only that. And Ben, if they're interested in Game of Thrones for some strange reason, what do we do
for
about
some strange reason? We're on Patreon going weekly episode by episode watching the entirety of Game of Thrones. And
right now it's about bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks is how it's kind of shaking out.
Bi-weekly, but we are really enjoying it. I'm joining the rewatch, and once season 2 is over with, that will be a first time watch for Jessica. So come and enjoy all the spoiler filled reactions of Jessica learning there's like that no one is safe in this show, and it's really, really fun.
I mentioned to somebody that I was doing this rewatch on interview for Mission Log the Orville over at Roddenberry Podcast, and the guy's like, "Oh, everyone's alive still." Just like, don't say that, please don't say that. But yeah, if you're watching this, as this is released, we just released the episode, "What is Dead May Never Die," the 3rd episode in season 2. Very good episode. We have fun on there, and. As always, thanks to Jesse Glaspie, who is at our $10 tier on our Patreon. You too can get a shout out if you want to join at that. But $5 gets you access to basically everything that we offer on our Patreon.
Woo!
Ben, anything else to say to our friends?
Until our paths meet again.
May they meet again.
May they meet again. I'll never get it right.